All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter. We're here to talk about the Chart of Accounts wizard in Church Windows Accounting. Pursuant to our topic from yesterday, which was kind of discussing fund accounting and fund theory, we're kind of following that up with a very important topic, which is the actual construction and the setup of the actual Chart of Accounts in Church Windows Accounting. So we're here for the next 20 minutes or so. This is a very detailed topic. We're going to probably be moving through it fairly quickly. It might go a minute or two long from our scheduled 20 minutes. We apologize for that. There is already a recorded webinar event out there on the Chart of Accounts wizard from a couple of years ago. Covers this same exact topic. It has changed very, very little, if at all, since then. We are recording today's event. It will be out on our website here sometime in the next week or 10 days. But if you are wanting a topic or wanting to watch a video on this same topic, there is one already out there if you choose not to wait. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. Folks, I'm going to be really adamant about if you've got questions about the other portion of the software, you're going to have to call support on that. There is simply not enough time to answer questions about anything else today. And of course, our support staff are always available and happy to help. Our topic is taken from our A101 accounting workbook, pages 4 to 21. I think the event was scheduled as 4 through 24, but it's actually, or 23, but it's actually 4 through 21 on the Chart of Accounts wizard itself. So let's go ahead and get started here. So when you're entering the Chart of Accounts wizard is going to show up in one of two places. One, when you're installing Church Windows fresh and clean and new and you're opening accounting for the very first time, or when you're, say, you've got a Chart of Accounts entered for, say, 2018, the Chart of Accounts is just in really bad shape and the church wants to establish a line in time where they're setting up a brand new Chart of Accounts, say, for the next accounting year, okay? So essentially when we're saying we want to start over fresh and clean in accounting is when the Chart of Accounts wizard is going to come up. So when we click on accounting, we've opened this up and we've removed our accounting data, and it's going to be opening up the very first screen of our Chart of Accounts wizard. So the first thing that it's asking us to do here is to please enter your month and year that starts your accounting year. So if you're on a calendar year, that's going to be January, and you have to choose the accounting year you're wanting to set that up for the first time. So in this case, based on us being in December, logic says that we're wanting to set that up for January of 2019. If you're wanting to run your software or have your accounting set up on a fiscal year, you would then set whatever month you would want to set as your fiscal accounting year here, for whatever month that is in the respective year, okay? So we're on a calendar year, but again, it's always the same thing, folks. It's going to want to run the software on a 12-month year, whether you're on a fiscal or a calendar year. So then once you've decided or set that respective month and year, then we're going to simply go down to the very bottom here. Let me get out my highlighter, and right here, click the button that says Set Accounting Year, okay? Once we click on that, and it pops up and says, are you sure this will create an accounting year that starts 1/1 of 19, ending December 31st of 19? Is this correct? If it's not, I'm going to click no and go back and set the proper month and year. In this case, it is correct, so we're going to click yes on that. Then the next window pops up, and this is at the bottom of our page 5 on our workbook pages. It says, will you be using account numbers? So if you click no, it's going to pop up and ask you to set up your first fund with a fund name with the appropriate fund name itself. We strongly recommend using account numbers, folks. It simply offers a different level of reporting flexibility. Account numbers help us identify what type of an account we're dealing with or working with at any given time. Okay, we're going to talk in more detail about that here in just a minute or two. But without the account numbers to tell us our account type, The account name is the only way that we can identify what type of an account we're dealing with. So you have to be very explicit about your account names. You know, your assets need to be named after the bank account or financial institution they're with, or your income accounts have to have the word income after them, or expenses have to have the word expense, or fund has the word fund. Otherwise, there's no other way to identify the type of an account that we're working with. So for the purposes of our webinar, we're going to click yes. It then pops up with our screenshot that we're seeing on page 6, where it's asking us to enter our account definition. So by default, Church Windows will try to set up a 7-digit account definition with 2 placeholders. However, if you're going, oh, well, we want, we don't want to have, we want to have 1 digit, 2 digits, 3, we would just backspace to clear that out, and notice that our example changes here. So Church Windows will support up to a combination of numbers and decimals up to 23 places. So we hope you don't need account numbers that use anywhere close to that amount of length. We're awfully in favor of keeping things as simple as possible. So somewhere between 5 and 7 digits with a variety of placeholders is pretty typical. So even with a 6-digit account definition right now, we have the possibility to have 99,999 possible accounts in every one of our account types, assets ranging through expenses, okay? All of the account numbers in Church Windows will have the same number of digits, so we can't have, one account have 5 digits or 6 digits in it and another one have 5 or 7. They're all going to have the same number of digits and placeholders in them once we've set that up. So once you've determined your account structure, then we would simply click the Use Structure button again that we've seen at the bottom down here, right where we saw that other one when we were asking to set our accounting year. Okay. So we're going to click Use This Structure. And then it pops up and asks us to enter our first fund name. So, folks, this is where we begin kind of talking about Church Windows. Again, pursuant to our conversation yesterday on our fund accounting, Church Windows is a fund accounting software package, okay? It uses funds as our equity accounts, and so we don't have just one equity account on our chart of accounts called owner's equity that you would see on a traditional for-profit balance sheet. We have maybe 3 or 4 or 6 or 8, depending on how many funds the church has on there or wants to track on their chart of accounts. So basically page 7, 8 kind of talks about the types of accounts. We have assets, we have liabilities, we have funds, fund balance accounts, we have income and expenses. Our income and expenses are linked to our funds, okay? So, let's say right here we're going to set up virtually every church has a general operating or an operating or general fund. So we're going to call this general operating fund. And then when we tab down, it adds the word balance. We're good with that. And then it's going to require that we enter an account number. So we're going to make our general operating fund 10.3.10.100, okay? Church Windows does also allow us to have sub-funds. We're not going to set up sub-funds as part of our general fund. Typically, that would not be a good use of sub-funds. Something like memorials might be, where you've got a main memorial fund under which you've got the separate individual memorials. So again, we're not going to check that box. But if we did, then it would ask us to set up our sub-funds with its associated income and expenses. So now in our operating fund, we're going to click Use This Fund. It then pops up and says, will there be income and accounts for the general fund, of course, and we're going to say yes to that. And so we're going to enter our first, say, income account, folks. You can always add additional accounts to the chart of accounts at any time after the chart of accounts wizard is closed or finished, okay? General tithes and offerings. And again, we're going to enter a number that starts with an account number that starts with number 4. We're going to label this 4.10.100. And again, it's asking us, will this account have sub-accounts? So I can set up sub-accounts of the income account if I wish, okay? But again, we're not going to do that. We click Add Accounts, Add Account. We're we're going to say flower income. I'm just arbitrarily adding some accounts here, folks. So 10 in this case in our middle set of digits is denoting for reporting purposes. It's not required by Church Windows. I could make this middle set of digits anything I wish. But in this case, we're just kind of maybe helping our readers understand that anything that has 10 as those middle two digits is related to our general fund. So maybe we might make our flower fund, our income account 150. Again, add account. And this process would continue ad nauseum for any income accounts that we had initially for our general fund. When I'm done with my income accounts, I'll simply click Finish with Income Accounts. It'll say, will there be expenses? Okay, so I think you're starting to get the process here. It's asking us to add the fund first, then any associated income and expense accounts. Okay? Again, per our conversation yesterday, in order for a fund to operate correctly, it has to have at least one income and one expense. So we're going to call this electric expense. Again, folks, I'm just arbitrarily adding some accounts here. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. So 5.10.200. We're going to, call, I'm just entering some utilities expenses here. So I would make this 205 maybe. And again, these account numbers can be changed. And again, I would simply continue adding my expense accounts for my general operating fund until I was finished, okay? And then again, I would go down to the bottom and click the Finish with Expense Accounts for General Operating Fund, okay? If I find later on that I didn't add accounts to the general operating fund I wanted to, I can still go back in when my Chart of Accounts wizard is finished and still add accounts to the Chart of Accounts, whether it's funds or assets or income or expenses at will, okay? So we would click Finish with Expense Accounts for General Operating Fund, and then it pops up and asks me, would I like to set up another fund? And so again, the process begins over where I'm adding another 300 accounts. So if I click yes, we'll set up our, let's say our memorial fund. We'll call this Main Memorial Fund. I just cannot seem to type today, folks. I'm so sorry. Then it calls it Memorial Fund Balance. We're going to call this one 350-100. And if we do this, will this fund have sub-funds? And if we check that and click Add this fund, it then pops up and says, what is my first sub-fund name? So we'll call this the John Doe Memorial Fund. And again, the same process occurs. Memorial Fund Balance, we'll call this one, 500 or 50, 10 or 110 maybe. And then I click Add Subfund, and it pops up and says, will there be income accounts for my John Doe Memorial Fund? The main funds never have income and expenses. They simply report and store the actual sub-funds that are underneath it. Income and expenses work exactly the same way. So if I click No on this, it'll allow me to add up, and it'll ask me if there are expenses. I can click No, and I can still go back in and add more additional funds to this and still go in and add more income and expense accounts to these accounts later, okay? Again, folks, it's kind of follow the bouncing ball with regards to this. So we're going to say no. So then here we are again, asked to set up another additional fund. So I could add building or missions or, whatever other funds I'm wanting with their associated income and expense accounts, okay? I'm just kind of, like I said, folks, racing through this today because, again, we're trying to fit everything into our 20-minute time slot here, trying to be respectful of your time. Again, I don't think there's anything terribly challenging about this. It's just understanding how it works. So when we're done with funds, we're going to click No on this final dialog box. Would you like to set up another fund? So we say no. Then it pops up, and if, again, we have accounts receivable, it asks us to set up an accounts receivable client number. So I might make this one, I could make this any number I want, again, requiring the 6 digits, starting with a 1. We're now in the process of beginning to add our asset accounts the church owns. So rather than putting this at the front end of my accounts. Maybe I'll make this one like 9,900, something like that, and set account number. And it will allow me then also to add my account receivable clients opposite of our accounts payable. So I'm just setting the main ledger client account number. I can go ahead and add clients if I have them. If not, I can just continue without adding accounts receivable clients and go in and add those later on. Okay. So if I just go ahead and want to, I can type in one here called Robert Smith, click Add Account. Their account numbers aren't required for receivable clients. When I'm done with those, I simply click on Finish with Receivable Clients. And here, it's now asking me to actually set up the actual physical assets that the church owns. So I've made checking accounts, savings accounts, investments, money market accounts, fixed asset accounts. When I tab down, it's asking me to enter an account number that starts with the number 1. Again, we're going to be 110, 100. Maybe this asset, this checking account exclusively handles the activity or the balance of my general fund. Again, it's a choice. You can have sub-accounts under assets, but we're not going to do that. Add account. It allows me to continue adding further asset account or further assets. Again, adding account numbers. When I'm done with my asset accounts, it's asking me to set up my main ledger for my accounts payable vendors. Again, I can label this anywhere I want, but maybe similar to my accounts receivable. I'm going to maybe make this to 9,900, set account number. And again, I can enter my accounts payable vendors now, or I can go ahead and add them later. Okay. I would simply enter the vendor name. No account number is required. And continue to add those, and then click Finished with adding accounts payable vendors. The final step here is it's asking me, yes, while vendors and accounts payable are categorized in the software as liabilities, it's now asking me, would I like to set up additional liability accounts? And if you own things like Church Windows Payroll, or maybe if you've got a loan or something for the church, you'll want to click yes on that. So assuming we have, say, Church Windows Payroll, we own that. We're going to want to set up maybe our tax liability accounts. And again, it requires a 200 number. And again, I would continue to add liabilities in exactly the same manner. Adding accounts. Maybe we'll add a loan payable, mortgage payable, add account. Okay, so then when I'm done, I would simply click Finish with adding liability accounts, and the system now says I can now enter accounts at will, or I can begin and set and enter my beginning balances for my 2019 accounting year whenever I am ready for that. Okay, so again, folks, we've got a video out on the website. That is our Chart of Accounts wizard. Again, you most likely you're going to be starting from a printout of a chart of accounts from another system, or one that you've maybe typed up in Excel, or you've got handwritten that you'll use, and you'll walk through this process. Once I'm done with this, I can still go up to my Manage Accounts, Accounts Plus Minus, and across the top up here in the upper left, where it says, you know, assets. I meant to get out my drawing tool. Sorry about that. Assets and clients and liabilities, and right up here is where I can add those accounts at will if I realize I made a mistake or omitted or forgot to add accounts. I can still go back up and add new accounts, okay, anytime I want now. I'm just using the Chart of Accounts wizard to enter something quickly and easily and effortlessly if I've got it from a spreadsheet or a printout or something like that. Okay? Finally, before we wrap things up here, go ahead, if you have questions, type those in there for me. I do want to point out that if you go into our support center at churchwindows.com and we type in the keyword sample here, and we click search, we do have a sample chart of accounts that you can review, or that it's there 24/7 that you can open and review. You can take things from this chart of accounts if you wish, but as you're constructing your chart of accounts and considering using this chart of accounts wizard, this sample chart of accounts may prove helpful for you as you're constructing your chart of accounts. So, all right, folks, that is our topic. We went about a little minute longer than we wanted to. I'm so sorry about that. Again, we hope the event has been helpful. I'm looking here, and I don't see any questions in the questions portion of the software. Maybe folks are just typing in some lengthy questions. Let's go back to the Support Center. I want to go ahead and show you that if, again, you're wanting to revisit this topic again without waiting for today's recording, if we go to the search right there again and type in wizard, not Wazard, Josh, wizard, type search, and again, we've got our chart of accounts wizard that was from a couple years ago in November of 2017 on this same exact topic, okay? All right, so I'm not seeing anything coming in, so I'm hoping folks got a good, hope I explained things well for folks here today. If you have questions, of course, please don't hesitate to contact our support staff, 800-533-5227. We're here till 5 p.m. Eastern Time today. If you have questions about this webinar or anything to do with Church Windows, please don't hesitate to give us a holler. We're happy to help. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everyone. Again, we look forward to seeing everybody at a future Church Windows webinar event, and have a great day. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.